Ciao ragazzi, welcome. This is a special edition. On the Serie Sitdown, we like to do deep dives of as many teams as we can. As one team in particular we haven't done so far. It's one of the Seven Sisters. Of course, you see the shirt. We're talking about AS Roma. I'm not going to do this alone. We got a very special guest to help us do this. Please welcome to the show, Wayne Girard. Wayne, you are an Italian writer of all sorts of areas. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm excited. I love what you're doing on the channel, and it's really cool. And I messaged you, I guess, about a week or two, and I was like, "When's the Roma one?" And you're like, "Oh, well, you're in it." So I was like, "Yeah, let's do this."
Tag, you're it. That's right. Now I'm glad to have you on. And before we get started, let the listeners, for those who don't know who you are, just tell them who you write for, and where people can find you real quick.
Sure. I'm in my seventh season working for Roma, doing some social media for them. Do the now it's Roma fan cam instant analysis when we win, and some pieces here and there that I've written, a few every year, like long form articles. And it started off as a small job, with like I would analyze three players from the opposite team to watch, and then that grew into more interviewing fans, which helped me realize kind of what I really like to do as well, which was not just to write or to film, but also just to kind of be like a connection between the team and the fans. And that's something Roma has afforded me. I did my thesis for my master's in history on the politics or socio-political fandom of AS Roma, a historical journey, and how the different divisions and political
Nice.
affiliations that they have. So I've spent a lot of my life, professional or adult life, trying to put all these pieces together. And it's not just you can't just be a writer anymore. If you, I think, if you really want a career, you have to be able to fit and wear many different hats, right?
Be
And you have to be
expansive,
interested
right?
in all of them too. So,
Yeah.
and I'm doing some stuff for Italian football TV as well for a few months now in an official capacity, which has been great. And you may have seen like maybe some of my stuff perhaps for Gentleman Ultra,
Yep.
the De Rossi, a Pirlo article, Fabrizio Mecoli, a bunch of just the stories that drive me and the ones that are not always so out in the open for the English speaking audience, to try and put those out there and bring those to life and give them some existence for the rest of the non-Italian speaking Calcio fans.
Yeah, I think that's so important, right? For those of us who love the game so much, to really uh, bring out the stuff that we love to others that may not know exactly what it is, especially for us English speaking fans. We may not know all the history and know the Mikulis of the world. And so bringing that out, we love that you do that and love anybody who does. And we want to make sure we share those creators to the world so people understand who they are and learn more about the game. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for joining us today. Yeah, excited to talk some Roma. I'm wearing my Roma Club DC shirt. Big fans of those guys down in DC, and they gave me this shirt when I went there to watch a game, Roma Milan, which we'll get to here in a moment. Before we get to the deep dive of Roma, let's talk about this past weekend, Roma Napoli, a big game, right? Obviously, top of the table, Napoli against Roma, who's really trying to make a push this year. New manager. It was always going to be a tight affair. What was your assessment of the game? Because 0-0, not what people expected from score wise, but it had a lot of action in this game.
Yeah, I was content, but I wasn't satisfied. I was happy that we have a really nice platform now. There's been this question throughout the first few months with Mourinho as to, do we need an extra center midfielder? And that question still definitely remains as far as the depth. However, we did see Veretout and Cristante perform an excellent, one of their top matches, perhaps their best together ever. And behind them, you can say just as well the same words for Mancini and Ibanez, who I thought were fantastic back there. So, seeing them get back to, not get back, but actually form something special here is really fortunate, because I think that if we didn't start to see that type of substance, then come in January, we could have had a little bit of a merry-go-round. I'm not sure what could have happened. So we get that platform at this point. Vina is fitting in very nicely. He's growing, I think, in each match I've liked from him.
Yeah,
Karsdorp has been really solid. He actually had a very good match, and one of the, I thought, a game-winning save
yeah. He
where
dropped a dime to Pellegrini late in the game too.
yeah. So he's balanced, right? And I think that's exactly what you want from a modern day outside back. And then, of course, you go into the attack, right? And I think they're just going to need a little bit more time, some more chemistry, perhaps an extra player. If we start to think about what does Roma actually need, I think perhaps somebody who's like a true fluent left winger would do a lot of wonders for this team. Somebody perhaps like 23, 24 years old who's got a lot of legs in them. Because one thing that I felt was that our striker just wasn't getting enough support. So with that, you kind of have to take a little bit from here in order to get there. So defensively, we're very good, right? However, if we had moved up and started to support Tammy a little bit more, would we have been found out a little bit more? Would we have been
Yeah.
countered or given up a little bit more space in between the lines? So I'm not convinced yet. They don't. Unfortunately, I'm not the coach, and I'm confident with Mourinho that he can figure that out, right?
Right.
So I think that at the end of the day, Roma Napoli for me gave a great platform where I can say, now I see what we need to work on for the rest of the season. And I'm confident with many of the players that we have in the starting lineup. And we can start to pinpoint
Hmm.
the smaller issues, which can ultimately lead us to big success.
And this is a big game because not only Derby del Sud, but you just came off a horrendous game in Europe where you needed to have a bounce back game. And I think the 0-0 game was good because had you come back in this game and got blasted by Napoli, big
Yeah.
questions have been asked. But you guys held your own against a very attack minded Napoli. And so, kudos for Mourinho for really regalvanizing the team to get them ready for the game. Um, you mentioned some of the pieces you guys may be missing. Tammy Abraham did have the best shot of the game for either team. Really had that one opportunity where Rahmani got him. You can call that a penalty. Some will call it penalty, some will not. But he had the greatest opportunity in the game. Personally, I've been a fan of this Roma team, this Roma midfield for the last 2 years. I think they play very well together, play very possession type game, very good on the counter attack. Obviously, you play a team like Napoli, it's always going to be hard to get possession. But you mentioned the defense is pretty strong. Where are the weak? You obviously mentioned the left winger, some area concern. Do you see like maybe a second striker is in need? Do you like the formation Mourinho's using? Would you like more depth in the midfield? How do you feel about the midfield? Because I'm a big fan of the midfield, even though I'm not a Roma supporter.
I like it. A player that we keep seeing is Zakaria. And if he was to come in this ball winning, big, strong midfielder, it gives us another dimension.
He's very good, by the way. I love him.
Yeah, yeah. I can't say I've seen him live. I don't watch too much German league. If it's on and in passing, I'll put it on for a few minutes. But I'm glad to hear that you do rate him. And when I've seen him in YouTube clips and the highlights, 8, 9 minute strings of his performances, I said, yeah, that's a player that I could definitely use for the remainder of the season and one that just screams Jose Mourinho. Now, if I'm going to pinpoint like one, if you had asked me this question 3 weeks ago, I would have probably said a rotational center back, perhaps one that's like on top of his game
Okay.
and cover for Karsdorp. Now I actually am starting to feel a little bit differently. Oh,
Okay.
and a center midfielder. So you can say those three.
All
I
right.
still feel that the center midfielder, but to me, as well as the cover for Karsdorp, but the most urgent coverage, and not only coverage, but like a real dynamite player, would have to be on the left wing. And I'm thinking of Jeremy Boga because I know his contract's about to expire.
Yeah, he's a saucy little left winger there. He
Yeah,
creates lots of problems for defense.
yeah,
I like
yeah.
that
So
shout.
I would like to see him make the jump. There's in Serie A, actually, there are some good left wings, but I actually see more depth in the right wing position when you look on like the middle and lower half of the table. And I'm not scared of promoting a player and buying a
Yeah.
player and saying like, I rate you and I think you have what it takes to go to the next level. So it doesn't always have to be a lateral move, like say like grabbing a winger, like let's say from a mid-table Premier League team or
Right.
one that's really good in France, right? It
Right.
could be somebody from within Serie A, in my opinion, who just needs a chance and shows that they have the raw skill. And I think Boga is one of those players.
Yeah. Oh no, I agree 100% about that. We've rated Jeremy Boga for a while now. He brings a lot to that Sassuolo attack, and I think he could wherever he goes. I'm happy that Sassuolo signed him because he stays in the league. And so if he were to move within the league, I think it's just a bonus for the league to keep him in there. So I like that. I like that shout a lot. So a player who is obviously very dynamic, probably undoubtedly the star of your team, Zaniolo. He's had some injury problems in his career thus far. It's well noted. A couple weeks ago, he picked up an injury, and the whole Calcio community gasped because we were wondering, please don't be this a serious injury. And I'm happy that we saw him against Napoli. What were your thoughts immediately in that last game before that he went down on the injury? Did Did you know that it was a serious injury or not? What were your thoughts when you saw the
Yes,
injury?
there, man. I was Rich. I was nervous when he did go down, and he hasn't had like the assists and the goals yet, but he's so important to this team. I see him as one of the very few players in the squad who can unlock a player 1v1, take them on. He can slow the game to the point where he draws defenders and opens up the rest of the field. And that's a quality that I love. And he's not the typical right winger because he attracts that attention, and he's muscular. He's actually getting kind of big. So he's very interesting out there. And I think that he's definitely going to be putting up those numbers in the second half of the season, if not in the coming weeks, because I see it. However, just to answer that, yeah, I was very nervous. However, with the muscle and the size that he's been putting on, I'm less afraid because I can see that he is committed to getting better.
Yeah.
And with the proper physical therapy that he's been putting in, I'm hopeful that he will remain healthy.
Yeah, I think we all do. I mean, even if you're just a Calcio supporter in general, I think Zaniolo is so important for the league and for the Azzurri, and it's important to see that he continues to progress better because I mean, the kid has amazing talent, and if your dream comes true and you get Jeremy Boga, I can't imagine Jeremy Boga and Zaniolo coming out the defense. That is
Oh,
just nightmares for the league. So that's very mouth-watering. So speaking of mouth-watering, obviously the game against Napoli was a difficult game. Drew 0-0. Um, Another big game coming this weekend against my Milan. It's another big game, another top of table clash because Milan is currently in first place as of right now. Obviously, Napoli hasn't played yet as of this recording. But Roma, you're trying to into the picture of the not only Champions League but possibly even Scudetto. Many Romanisti are thinking there's a chance of that. How do you see this game against Milan shaping up? Because Milan is not playing at top form. They're being very resourceful right now. Do you think there's an area for them that you guys can really beat them and take advantage of?
I see Milan and Inter as the teams who play this. Both are playing equally the best football in Italy right now. I like Milan and I do enjoy watching them, particularly because their defense is so strong. And I don't think you can take anything away from that with that. And they're also, what's the word, multi dynamic, very highly dynamic.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm looking at the stats, right? Central Tonali is a player who I believed in, and I'm for him because I'm not a Milan fan, right? I'm
right.
not gonna say I'm happy for Milan, but I'm happy for Tonali to kind of show up and become a really good player, and he's proving that so far. He's still only 21 years old, and I look through the goals though, and I see a Milan who can hit you in a lot of different ways. Because even Benacer, he just scored a ridiculous goal.
Yeah.
Rebic has a goal. Zlatan is back with already had two, so quickly. Kessie, he's been having his problems, but he's been even when he plays though.
And
At the
Leao's having a breakout year, so
Leao's 4 goals and an assist, ridiculous, and he looks so dynamite. This guy, like I wouldn't want to play against him.
yeah,
Him on the left wing, like very hard to play against. Brahim Diaz, he's showing up as a number 10 now, and who else has got a few goals here? Davide Calabria,
yeah,
and then you got
yeah,
Theo Hernandez. This is a good team,
yeah,
and Pioli has had them for I believe 3 years now. So they're not like, oh, it's year zero. No, this is Milan with some time under their belt
yeah.
and some integrity to their play. So I'm definitely wary of this Milan for sure. And I think that if they can figure it out long term and keep grinding out these results, that it's going to be them and Inter at the end of the season, I believe.
Yeah, yeah, no, I agree with that. I would even throw Napoli in that mix as well. Where do you see the weakness at the moment with Milan that you think Roma can really exploit? Is it probably the counterattacks? I think because I think at times minus Tomori, Milan's defense is fairly slow back there. Teo at times can be missing his head, and if Calabria pushes up, there's a gaping hole back there, and obviously Kiar and Romagnoli, they're good, but they don't have the pace that maybe if you have a Zaniolo on the attack or Mkhitaryan who's very very quick, or Tammy Abraham as well. So do you think that's the counterattack you're going to be able to get Milan? Because you're obviously going to have to play compact. Knowing Mourinho, it's going to be very similar tactic to Napoli.
Yes,
The counterattack's got to be the way to beat Milan, isn't it?
yes, for sure. And if Teo starts taking up that space, he's going to be going against a different type of opponent. Zaniolo versus Hernandez is going to be an interesting matchup.
I have
And
flashbacks of Chiesa versus Teo, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
yeah, yeah. So he's not going to be able to bite as much space as he would like. And against Kier, that would be interesting. I think Tammy is. Is Tamori predicted to get the start? He's going to be healthy.
Well, he's healthy. He started tonight with Romagnoli, and then So I'm not sure. I would imagine Tomori's going to start, but
Yeah,
it'll probably be Tomori and Kiar. But you never know. You never know with Pioli. So short rest.
yeah, yeah. So I definitely think it's going to be on the counter. I would like to see who's going to be starting at left wing for Roma. I have a feeling it's going to be El Shaarawy, but it could be Mkhitaryan just based on confidence within the
Yeah.
player. I think Mourinho likes to have El Shaarawy more as a super sub. So I think this is going to be a heck of a game. Actually, this is going to be one of the games of the season.
I agree. I think, I know Milan had a tough game against Torino today. Torino is going to play that kind of grinded out kind of game, and Mourinho is going to love that kind of style, especially against an opponent who likes to have possession. So it's going to be a tough game. I mean, goals are going to be hard to come by. I see both teams scoring. Honestly, I think
Yeah,
Roma has a talent offensive, and I think Milan are good enough that they can score goal themselves. It's going to be a good game. I agree with you. I think it's going to be a
yeah.
mouthwatering affair.
It would be hard to call this one.
It
Anyone
is.
says
Flip of
like,
the
"Oh,
coin.
it's gonna be that," nah, this is gonna be an interesting match.
It is. It is. And you could, I mean, arguably either team could blow out the other one too. I mean, that's how good the squads are. Let's get deep dive into Roma now. Well, we got a few minutes left. Coming into the season, obviously the acquisition of Mourinho was huge. Add to that Tammy Abraham, you got Eldor as well. Some other pieces that are coming to fold. Obviously, Zaniolo getting healthy. Going into this season with all these pieces coming in, did you fancy Roma with a strong Scudetto opportunity this year?
I did. I felt that they were a dark horse, and that now I see that there are a couple holes, but I think that those can be repaired with a few shrewd fixes. And I believe in Thiago Pinto, our sporting director, that him together with Mourinho, that they could start that they could perhaps become one of the best playing teams. Now, of course, injuries and all those things happen throughout the season, which makes it difficult to compete on 2 or 3 different fronts. So I saw them mixing it up with the top teams, and we saw that against Napoli, right? Because they were the better team. If I'm going to be a non-bias, even though of course you look at my wall, and you'll see them, and it's not just the shirt. However, I thought that they outplayed up until then the best team in Serie A.
Yeah.
And going into it, that was kind of like my goal: is
Yeah.
can they do it? And now the trick is, can we keep it going? And then I think that's the hardest part. So I'm glad with that performance. And like Mourinho said at first, we've got to keep it going match by match and not get ahead of ourselves and start to put ourselves or make us out to be something we're not. Just got to put in the hard work, and there's no excuse for that.
Yeah, and I think you're not alone. As many people were touting as Roma as one of the favorites, obviously with Mourinho and his pedigree in Serie A and the world really. I know on City Sitdown, some people didn't like our responses because we both thought, we think highly of Mourinho and Sarri too at Lazio. We thought that those two, they would change up so much in their teams that they would make their team better. We knew Mourinho was going to shut down the defense, make the defense much better than it was previously, and that's happened already.
Yeah,
But we knew that were so many questions in Mourinho. We weren't ready to quite tout them as the next Scudetto contender, but we thought they were going to be in the mix. This league is the most deepest we've seen in a while. I think 7, 8 teams can arguably fight for that Champions League spot, and it's going to be tight all year long. So
yeah,
just because you don't pick someone like Roma as a Scudetto favorites doesn't mean they're not going to be in the mix. I mean,
yeah,
anyone goes on a run, and we've seen they can get hot, and anything can happen. So
yeah. 'Cause if they had been hot right now, I think people would be putting them right up there. They would be in the conversation.
exactly.
If they had 3, 6 more points, and a few of those games which could have gone their way, unfortunately didn't. But those are the growing pains, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now we can start to hopefully get past those growing pains.
Luckily for you guys, your counterparts across the city are also having growing pains. So that's always nice to see when they fall too, right?
Stinking like old fish. That's,
Uh,
that's the saying.
all right. So the season, the way it's gone so far, ups and downs, obviously, right? You say you've seen a lot of good so far. You've seen some gaping holes already. You obviously mentioned left winger, some pieces that you think can come in there. Do you think we've seen in some locations with Mourinho's been brilliant in his career, but there's some locations, and mostly recently, where he's kind of lost the locker room. You don't feel that's happening now, but is that ever a fear of you as the season goes on that maybe players get tired of him or something like that, or maybe they don't if they start getting
I
many
think
results?
the ones who aren't under him and aren't willing to put in the hard work, and they're just using Roma as a stopgap or something
Mm,
in their career, that they're gonna fade out. But that's kind of what I want. Like if
right.
you're not fully committed and you're not willing to get behind the coach, then this isn't for you, because that is one of the definitions of a project is everyone comes together to try to make something difficult happen, right? So at one point there's got to be a time where you say there is no more time and your time is up, because we're going to get people who believe in this for better or worse, and that's the philosophy that I go along with from Marino.
No, 100%. Now I got your handle there so people can see your handle. Rest of the season, how do you see the rest of the season panning out here? Do you see yourself in the Champions League spots, in the Europa League spots? I fully believe, and this is just me, from what I've seen in Mourinho, he's going to go for that trophy in the what's it called, the Confederation Champions Cup or whatever it's called, the
Yeah,
European.
we'll make a push there, and I
Yeah.
think that they'll secure fourth. I think they'll start to push the other teams off their shoulders for
Mm,
fourth
yeah.
and start to lock that down. And I think that's the goal. It's got to be the goal at this point. And if along the way we start taking some points off the big boys, then just as well.
Yeah, the battles against the Seven Sisters, as we like to call them, might be eight sisters at this point. It's going to be key, and another one coming up this weekend with Milan. So, yeah, I'd be very curious to see how Roma comes out this season. Like I said, I've been a big fan of their midfield. I just love the way they move the ball, and Vera too back there pulling the strings with Mkhitaryan. I mean, those guys are just brilliant. Um, Before we wrap this one up, you're a Roma fan. Who are some of your favorite players in history? Obviously, Totti's name is going to be up there.
I-
What are your favorite moments for Roma, and who are your favorite players through history?
In history, it is Montella, who was somebody I really looked up to as a number 9.
Nice,
Yeah, loved him. Damiano Tomasi, Perota, these are guys I really enjoyed playing and that were kind of role models for me as I was a young teen.
nice.
Um, Giannini, if I go back into the 80s, I loved him as a number 10. Just the way that he was on the ball was he was magic. He was
Yeah,
royalty, the
yeah.
Principe. And then as time went on, of course, there's Francesco, but I'm thinking more of like that Spalletti era.
Mm, yeah.
Now, how I play and how I try to model myself is I think of Pizarro, actually, who was super underrated
Oh
for what
yeah,
he contributed, to Spalletti's time in Rome. He was great. Peck
yeah.
was a phenomenal regista defensive midfielder. And man, you could learn so much from watching his play about simplicity and vision. Oh, wasn't he great?
Oh my goodness.
And if I think a little bit outside of Roma, um, trying to think like a Fiorentina or other teams like that. At Parma, I really looked up to Gilardino, but as I grew up, I started falling less for strikers and more for playmakers. And Ronaldinho was just not
Oh,
not someone that I wanted to emulate or looked up to, but someone who I was just in awe of.
jaw dropping. Yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness. Oh my goodness.
for real. And then on the other side of the spectrum, who's getting himself into some hot water today, Antonio Cassano. Like
Yeah.
he was magic.
Oh
He was really something else. He could have been a world beater,
yeah.
and he's just so like divinely talented.
Wasted talent almost, just because his head wasn't always in there.
Yeah,
Uh, yeah, he has a nickname we won't repeat in here, but it's for a good reason, right?
yeah.
Awesome. Well, great. Love talking about Roma. Wish we could probably talk a lot more about Roma, but our time is pressing, and I know yours is special, and so I want to be courteous to that. Please tell our followers where they can follow you on social media and plug anything you would like to plug.
Yes, thanks so much. When Wayne Romes is on Twitter. I'm still waiting to get my real handle back because I got flagged for filming at Roma Club New York.
Oh,
Unlike Roma Club DC, another great club. But yes, that's like temporarily suspended. So hopefully I'm gonna get Wayne and Rome back one day. But that is still my Instagram as well as my website, wayneandrome.com. And I'm always putting stuff out. So just give me a follow and it'll be great. Trust me. I promise I won't disappoint. I try to just make interesting stuff, whether if it's memes of dogs or what I'm making for dinner. You can always hit me up if you want some recipes for that too. So
I echo those sentiments. I believe, yeah, everyone should follow Wayne here. Make sure you don't. If you don't already, you need to. And so make sure we share the handles and anything you show, we'll retweet as best we can, as often as we can too. So, thank you again for your time here. This is here with Wayne Girard talking Roma. Finally talking AS Roma. Deep dive and yeah, we'll try to get you on later on in the season. Talk some more Roma and yeah, we'll can't wait to deep dive more into the Giallorossi later on. So thank you again for your time tonight.
thanks so much, Rich. Awesome.